Well, it's certainly an emotional challenge for President Biden. He has always responded to these kinds of attacks on his son by just saying, I love my son. But obviously, the charges that have been brought deal with Hunter Biden's drug addiction. And, to be honest, not that hard to buy a gun in the United States. But one of the things that will prevent you from doing so is if you are an active addict or using drugs and on various forms. When he bought a gun in 2018, Hunter Biden attested that he was not an addict. And so what we've seen in court is a range of evidence from the prosecution trying to show that, in fact, he was lying at that time.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise too many that a drug addict would be lying about something like this. It would seem that their addiction should be a factor in the case. But my understanding is that hasn't really been allowed as a mitigating factor.
Well, again, the case is being brought on the grounds of effectively perjury, right? And also of illegally owning the gun once he was sold it, based on the evidence he gave on the form, both to the gun dealer and on the federal form that's required when you purchase a firearm. And so again, once he had bought it illegally, that brings a third charge in this particular case. And his addiction, really what the defense is trying to show here is, well, he had been addicted before and after, but at the time, his state of mind was such that he had not was not suffering from addiction, that he, in fact, had just come out of a rehab program. And so it's a pretty, difficult case to bring that just at this moment he was not addicted to drugs and therefore should have said that, therefore told the truth on the form.
Interesting. It is quite ironic that the Republican Party is championing this case and really making a lot of Hunter Biden as a sort of stumbling block for Joe Biden, but calling all the cases against Trump a witch hunt.
Yeah, it is the party of the self-proclaimed party of law and order historically, right, has talked up the rule of law. And in this case, they are a little bit hoisted on their own petard in that regard. That is to say, they're saying that Joe Biden has complete control over the Justice Department, even to the point where he's bringing cases in New York State, right? That's where President Trump was just convicted, but yet is unable to control the Justice Department and stop it from bringing a case against his own son. It's hard to imagine the Trump Justice Department bringing these charges against Donald Trump Jr. or Eric, right? And so, yeah, we have definitely an interesting distinction. Now, the Republican Party has been trying to link Hunter Biden to financial crimes that might implicate his father. There were extensive congressional hearings, and effectively they came up with nothing. They came up with the fact that Hunter Biden has certainly had a very troubled life, but nothing linking Joe Biden to criminality.
Yeah. Is it going to be a stumbling block for the president in his re-election, do you think? Is it going to cause him problems in the public's mind?
Well, legally, I don't think so. Again, the efforts to tie him to various monetary corruption through his son Hunter have been very unsuccessful. I think emotionally, though, he's tied up in this, right? He has been, a very loyal family man through a lot of travails in that family, going back to the 1970s when his first wife was killed in an automobile accident. This has been he's been sort of a quintessential family man and has, again, stuck by his son throughout all his troubles. So I do think emotionally he's tied up in it. Legally, it's going to be just a question for Hunter, and he's got another federal case against him about tax evasion coming up later in the year. So that's certainly going to be in the news. But to the extent, from the Biden campaign's perspective, to the extent that that actually highlights the contrast between, Biden's willingness to let the Justice Department operate independently, that actually could help him a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. This week, President Biden introduced a sweeping executive order to restrict the flow of migrants into the US on the border with Mexico. Why did he take this step now?
Well, largely because the immigration issue has been politically troubling for him and for the Democratic Party, right? He has been seen, I don't think entirely accurately, but seen as sort of weak on immigration. Certainly the former president and his campaign has been attacking Biden for being soft on immigration, allowing caravans of criminals effectively to enter the country over the southern border. Biden, in 2020, attacked many of Trump's own executive actions trying to limit asylum seekers from entering the U.S. And so this is a bit of of a change of heart. Now, Biden will refer back to a legislative deal he had negotiated with Republicans in the Senate not too long ago. Donald Trump actually intervened and helped to capsize that deal. So Biden is now saying, well, you wouldn't give me the legal authorization to do this. Now I've got to do it on my own by executive action.
Yeah, and does it take it away from Donald Trump as an election issue that he could exploit?
Well, I doubt it. I mean, the argument from the Republican Party will be still too soft, too little, too late. If you had the power to do this before, why didn't you do it before? Of course, whether he has the power is an open question. There are going to be legal challenges to this. Basically, what he said is that within a certain level of entries into the country between official points of entry, asylum seekers can just be turned away, that they won't be able to apply for asylum if they don't come to a specific port of entry. Does he have the power to do this? That's kind of an open question given both international law and other U.S. statute regarding asylum.
Yeah, really interesting. We'll watch as it plays out. Andrew, good to have you on. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.